First, I want to take a moment to remind everybody that I am sponsored by G Fuel Energy. I do have my own code. Use code REID, R-E-I-D, on gfuel.com for any and all G Fuel related purchases. If you guys want to get cracked like me in Warzone, this is the way to do it. This is what I do. Hey, yo, what is going on, YouTube? It is your boy Reed, the #1 console player in the world, back with a new updated console best player settings called Caldera Vanguard Pacific Edition. That's a lot of words, okay, I know. So I'm going to go ahead and get right on into the video for you guys. These are the settings of the #1 console player in the world. At the time of me recording this video, I have the most wins in the Caldera map, and it is not even close, to be completely honest. So these are the settings that I use to be as good as I am. Now, I gotta say, I do not change my settings too much, so if you've seen my previous settings videos, these will be pretty similar. There are very few differences. I try not to change my settings too much. I always tell people that you want to get your settings right and then practice with them. You don't want to be changing your settings around and taking all that time that you spent getting good with certain settings and getting rid of that time. So these settings are going to be pretty similar to the ones that I've been using for years. With that said, let's get right on into it. Button layout, I play on Bumper Jumper Tactical. I started this because I did not want to spend hundreds of dollars on a fancy controller, which I did end up doing down the road. But this is that way you don't need to do that to be able. The main priority here is you don't want to take your thumb off the thumbstick when you're moving around the map. You want to always have your thumb on the thumbstick to aim around. This allows you to jump without taking your thumb off the thumbstick. This allows you to drop without taking your thumb off the thumbstick. Super important stuff. So that's what I play on. Stick and move, bumper jumper without tactical. Any of those are options if you don't want to spend money on a fancy controller. If you have a fancy controller, you can play default. That's all personal preference. Stick layout, default, invert look, not for me. Minimum input. So these, ideally, this kind of depends on your controller. But your goal here is you want more so the right stick. The right stick you want to be as low as possible. I play on a 0.03. That is what I found to work perfectly. Anytime my controller starts drifting, rather than put my dead zone up, which could fix the drift, but it messes up your aim, I'll just get a new controller instead. Left stick, not anywhere near important. This helps with the minimum input helps with your precision. So you want it to be low, but you don't need to be precise with your left thumbstick. You don't need to be precise with your movement where you do with your aim. So the left stick can be whatever you need it to be. I just keep mine on 0.03 because that's totally fine. Maximum, I want the full maximum range of motion for my dead zone, so I have them both set to maximum. Horizontal sensitivity, I play on a 7, vertical 5. So this thought process came when we went from jetpack Call of Duties, where people are flying all over the place, up, down, left, right, to World War II, where I never had to look more than up to a second-story window. I tried turning my sensitivity down, my vertical sensitivity down from 7 to a 5. I like it. I've had it ever since. Is it necessarily the best for Warzone now, with people, floating in from the sky all above you, you constantly having to look up high, tall buildings now? Maybe not, but I still like it. I feel like it helps with my snipes and hitting headshots precisely with being able to make those minuscule adjustments. So I keep it. Again, sensitivity is personal preference. I always say if you can pick somewhere between like 4 on the very, very low end and 10 on the very high end, you don't really want to go too much higher than that, and stick somewhere in that area, find out where you're comfortable, and stick with it and get used to it. That's your best bet. You don't really want to go too much higher than 10, because even though it allows you to do fancy stuff and turn on people and shoot people that are on your side, you don't really want that. That happens very rarely. The chances of you being able to turn on somebody is very small, whereas the places where you need to hit every single bullet are way more likely. So it's more important to be able to hit every shot in every gunfight than it is to be able to occasionally turn on somebody. ADS sensitivity multiplier, I keep that on a 1 because we get into the custom sensitivity per zoom. So this just stays a default, but then we get into the custom per zoom. So basically I played on a 0.8 for the low zoom, 0.9 for the high zoom in old Warzone, and now you have a lot more fine-tuned adjustments possible. You can change these however you need, but I kind of try to stay with that same idea. If it's considered a low zoom, I play on 0.8. If it's considered a high zoom, I play on 0.9. A lot of customizability here. I would say try not to get too crazy with this. Try and keep some level of consistency with some of these, but there's a lot of options here. Aim response curve type, personal preference. I like linear. Most people do not. Most people prefer either standard or dynamic. This just simply comes down to how your thumbstick responds to your thumb moving it. And relates to your character in game. It's some fancy sciencey stuff, but I like linear. Personal preference on these. Controller vibration, almost nobody anywhere plays with it enabled. I do. I don't feel comfortable playing with vibration not on. Personal preference, most people are going to tell you to turn it off. Aim assist for cheaters. Everybody knows that. Who uses aim assist nowadays? It's almost 2022, guys. Like, come on, turn it off. Weapon mount, shared input, ADS and melee. So yeah, to mount. Some people like to double tap to mount. I don't really like that. I prefer to ADS and press a different button rather than having to press the same button twice. I feel like it's a little faster. Movement exit enabled. Aim down sights, hold, steady aim, hold, equipment, hold. I don't really like to toggle these. Personal preference. Contextual tap. This is a very important setting. You want to have contextual tap on. It literally allows you to loot faster. You can grab things off of the ground faster. I played for a very long time without turning this on, and then when I turned it on, I was actually amazed to see that you can literally grab things off of the ground faster. Not just press the button faster, but your character can scoop things up faster. So definitely turn contextual tap on. Depleted ammo weapon switch. Whenever I run out of ammo, I want my gun to swap. Armor plate behavior, apply all. I recommend you turn this on. This is definitely important because you can just hold the button once and it'll start putting in all your plates rather than you having to continuously hold it. That way it allows you to just put on the or hold the button to put on the armor and then just continue running around without having to hold the button on. Slide behavior, tap to slide. This allows your movement to hit next levels. I definitely recommend it. Combine this with automatic tactical sprint. This will not only allow your movement to be top tier, next level, looking like Joe, looking like Reed Boy if you're on a console. This also saves your left thumbstick on your controller. Prevents it from falling apart quicker. So I did turn this off when I played Vanguard, and my brand new controller in less than a month of playtime already started breaking. So I definitely recommend you turn this on if you can. It takes a little bit to get used to, but it is worth the adjustment. Auto move forward, disabled, don't want that on. Tactical sprint. I will, if I ever use a riot shield or a Kimbo's or a shotgun, you'll see me change in game from automatic tactical sprint to single tap from run. That way you don't have to push down on your thumbstick twice to tactical sprint. You can just push once. It will help save your controller, but it's still the movement is not anywhere near as good as with automatic tactical sprint. Vehicle camera recenter disabled. Parachute auto deploy. You want to turn this off and get used to it. You will break your ankles a couple times. It will happen, but you can get so much closer to the ground, so much faster. You can win heli races, airplane races now. You can get to the ground and grab loot faster than the opponent if you have this turned off. You definitely want to turn it off. It's worth it. The amount of times you get to the ground faster. If you break your ankles a couple times, don't worry about it. Happens to the best of us. Safe area, this is specific to your custom monitor. Camera movement, turn it down. You don't want your camera to be shaking while you're in the middle of the gunfight. Same thing with weapon blur and motion, or with motion blur and weapon motion blur. Turn those off. You don't want things to be blurry. You want to be able to see things. Film grain, turn it off. Dismemberment and gore effects, personal preference. I want it on. Brightness, I originally had my brightness on 70 when the new map came out, and I had to turn it down to 60 because the colors look like all white and washed out. And I feel like there's not anywhere near as many dark corners as there were in Verdansk, so you can definitely afford to turn this down a little bit. Again, this is kind of personal preference. This goes with your monitor settings as well, or TV if you use a TV. On-demand texture streaming, I have very, very high internet speeds, so I turn this on, high quality, unlimited bandwidth. This, you might be limited by this if you have slower internet. Also, this may or may not be causing issues with some people on consoles in the new map. I have not had any issues at all. There have been, I can count on one hand the amount of times my gun has gotten the weird texture bug where it's all blocky and blobby. That doesn't happen to me very much. I don't know if I just got super duper lucky or if it's because something in my settings helps out. I'm not too sure. Keep in mind, I only play on 60 hertz on my PS5. I do not play on the 120 hertz mode. So that might also have something to do with it. I'm not too sure. I've heard that this has something to do with it. But people said to turn it off to fix it, and I've never turned it off. It's always been on, and it hasn't been a problem for me. So that's kind of, to each their own on that one. Interface, these are all personal preference things here. I play on Deuteranopia to get that specific tinted color. Also make sure colorblind target is set to both, so that way it's in-game and in the menus. Minimap shape square allows you to literally, as you can see by this image, see more of your minimap. Definitely recommend it. Minimap rotation, personal preference. I want these both enabled. Compass, I like the letters better than just numbers. Kill feed duration. So here's my thought process behind the kill feed duration. It takes you about a minute to bleed out when you go down. So if I down somebody and I still see their name on the kill feed, and I haven't seen them. I don't know if they've bled out or they self-revived. If I still see their name on the kill feed, there's a possibility that they're still down and haven't bled out. If you down somebody and you no longer see their name on their on the kill feed, it faded away, then they have self-revived, they've gotten revived, and they're gone. You should not look for their down body crawling or their loot anywhere. That's my thought process behind that. Work smarter, not harder, you know? Text chat enabled. Gotta have the profanity filter on because kids are weird. Don't want sound alerts, though. Don't have the text duration enabled. In-game alert icons, I have these on just to let me know if something weird happens, if I'm lagging or something like that. Audio, I gotta emphasize, I cannot hear footsteps in this game. I've never been able to hear footsteps effectively in years. I don't sound whore footsteps very much. So these are not the best settings if you want to hear every footstep. These are just simply to play the game and be fine. This is what I have it set to. Boost high, I tried changing it to boost low because somebody said that helps with the ambient sounds or with footsteps. I didn't like it. I went right back to boost high after like 2 games. Master volume, 60. Don't turn your master volume all the way up to 100. It ain't worth it going deaf to be able to slightly hear a couple footsteps in a video game. Don't go deaf playing a video game, man. Music volume, I want it turned down. You don't want this distracting you, but I also like to have it just on, just very faintly in the background to where it doesn't distract you, but you can still kind of get that sense of urgency in certain end game situations. Effect volume, somebody did tell me that this has to do with footsteps. I don't know if it's true. I don't feel like I hear footsteps any better when I turn it up, but I just kept it at 100 because it didn't really seem like it made a difference. Juggernaut music, I have that on. Hit marker sound effects, I like the classic sound on it. Mono audio disabled. Voice chat enabled, got it turned down just a little bit. Voice chat effect, I like the classic MW2 vibe. When I hear people dying in death comms and raging at me, I like to hear that MW2 throwback nostalgia. War tracks, I've got them turned down a little bit. I want them on because I want to hear the music whenever I hop in a helicopter, even though I usually turn it off, but turn it down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And that will pretty much sum it up for all the settings. That breaks it down for me, for you. Let me know what kind of settings you guys use, if you like or don't agree with some of my settings. If you change your settings to something that I have and you specifically like it, let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, and if you are new and want to watch more of the best console POV you can find in Warzone, make sure you subscribe, and you guys have a beautiful day. I'm out.